Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Justin, and in this video I thought I'd share with you my APR portfolio I did in high school. So I'm currently a senior in high school, and when I took APR, it was my junior year. So I'm actually going to talk a bit about that as well, and just some general information about APR. So my theme for my portfolio was actually it was quite broad. I chose the theme of change. So just like change within my life, I guess. So I was in a bit of a unique position. When I took APR, my parents were, my parents sent me to like an art studio to kind of help me out. And it was at that art studio where I learned a lot of different techniques and a lot of things that I used in my portfolio that I kind of want to share with you. So my first ever piece in my portfolio was actually this. It's a piece I did with oil paint. It's on a wood panel, 18 by 24. So basically, yeah, this is my first ever oil painting. The way I came up with it was the instructor at the art studio I went to, a lot of it was independent work, but she had a lot of experience putting a lot of high schoolers through AP art, and a lot of kids into art colleges. So the technique that we really used throughout the year, and just in general, was actually Photoshop. And what we do is we would collage a ton of photos together. Like I put, a picture of an old picture of me, and then found a lot of other images online to kind of remix into Photoshop, and then I used that Photoshop reference to paint. You can use other images in your APR portfolio. I'm sure if you're getting ready to take it or you've already taken it, a lot of people say there's a lot of fear around plagiarism. And copying things that aren't yours. A lot of things surrounding the fact that you have to use your own references. So, which is true. The main reference in this one is actually my face. So as long as I guess the main point or points in your piece is your own reference photo, that's okay. But of course you can accessorize or remix with other photos from the internet, and that's completely fine. I did it, I had no issues, and I got a 5 on my portfolio. So this one was supposed to sort of represent change, I guess. To be honest, it doesn't really do that. The reason I chose change or such a broad theme for my portfolio was because I had already started making some pieces before I even chose a theme. And I wanted a theme that could encompass a lot of different things. I'll tell you right now, your theme is not super important. So if I were you, I would choose a very broad theme, that at the end you can tie all of it together, because you'll just write like a pretty minor paragraph about how your portfolio and how your pieces relate to a theme. So don't worry about it too much. If you're really going for like a portfolio that's based very heavily around a very obvious theme, then go for it. You can definitely do that. But for me and a lot of other people, it's a lot easier to just get a very broad theme and kind of tie all your pieces back together to that theme at the end. But yeah, this piece was kind of abstract in 2D. Actually, it was a little bit of both. I mixed some 2D elements with some 3D, just to kind of make it a little bit interesting. And of course, I used a very flat background. If you're taking AP drawing, you don't want everything to be too abstract and too flat. So if you want to incorporate those elements, do it sparingly and do it strategically, in addition to actually showing off your technical skill when it comes to elements and principles of art. And one last thing about this piece that I want to talk about was I actually started creating this well before the school year started. This is when I registered for APR in the coming school year, and then I took a proactive step and I started to get a head start on my portfolio, which is extremely important because I can guarantee you if you put a lot of time and effort into your pieces, you're going to fall behind with the amount of time that's allotted to you throughout the year. So start as soon as possible if you know you're going to take it. And I just did this one the summer before the school year. And this piece is, I think when I submitted it, I literally, because you have to name all your pieces, I think I literally named this one Change. So I just remembered my theme actually wasn't change. Sorry, I lied. My theme was growing up. Maybe I already said that, I don't know. But yeah, my theme was growing up, so practically every single painting that I did that was quite personal to me, it had like images from throughout my life. It was easy to fit that into the theme I chose. So the second piece I ever did was actually a colored pencil piece. It was colored pencil and watercolor. I don't have the physical paper with me because I actually left it at the art studio last year and I just never picked it up, and I actually don't go there anymore. But this piece, I named it Chaos, and I was inspired by another artist. I'll see if I can try to find the piece that inspired me, but it was like animals in interior spaces. So for this one, I kind of chose an animal with like interesting shapes. So that was kangaroos. And then on Photoshop, I kind of stitched a lot of different photos together, different pieces of furniture, the background, and then I put the kangaroos in. And then essentially I arranged them, and then changed up the colors and everything. When you take images from online, because not a single image in this piece is actually my own reference photo. So if you have a piece that's completely images online, you have to make sure to alter it quite heavily. So arrange it into a composition that just looks different and quite unfamiliar, and just kind of make it your own so that it, you know, doesn't look too similar to another existing work. Change up the colors, change up the sizes. You can manipulate different things with perspective, mesh, or distort, and just use like different tools in Photoshop. I highly recommend using Photoshop because it made it very, very easy to, you know, arrange the elements and manipulate them as well. So basically, I did this piece with Prismacolor colored pencils, some watercolor for the background, just to make the background a lot heavier or have a lot more coverage. And then I finished it off with a bit of digital collaging, just to tie the piece together because honestly, I didn't really want to finish it. I was really tired at that point. So if you can combine like mixed media as well, makes it a lot more interesting. It can take some workload off you as well. So this was my, I think this was my third piece in my portfolio. And I named this one Calculations, I think. Basically in the middle, it's the reference photo from myself that I used is actually a picture of my friend. And she's like super smart, always studying and everything, so that's where I kind of came up with the inspiration of Calculations, because like in this photo she looks like it looks like everything around her is kind of going on inside her head. So at this point in my portfolio, I kind of came up with, in addition to my sort of theme, I also came up with what style of art I want to go with, and that style was kind of my own version of surrealism. This is actually a piece that I'm very proud of. I'm very happy with how the colors turned out, and my ideas when it came to the chess pieces, Calculations, like a road that is reminiscent of a chessboard. You know, I made use of open space in the background, and then, you know, with the flow of the eye from the chessboard all the way up to the dragon. At the time, I was really interested in chess, and I was watching a lot of chess content. I was playing a lot of chess as well, so that's kind of where the inspiration came. If you choose quite a broad theme like I did, you can tie these sort of inspirations back to your pieces. And yeah, like you can take ideas from it. So I kind of combined that passion for chess alongside my friend. And that's kind of how I came up with the idea for this piece. And then I played around in Photoshop for a long time to kind of come up with this really good composition. So again, like change the colors. You know, for this figure over here, you know, the legs were a reference from one image, torso was another, and then the head was another as well. It was a chess piece. So if you can, you know, kind of get creative with it. Stitch your elements together to create something kind of new and interesting. And then if you do that consistently, your piece will turn out very original. So this is my, I think this is my second ever oil painting. And at this point, I was kind of getting the hang of it. Originally, I wanted to do my portfolio in acrylic before I started attending that art studio. But having painted with acrylic my entire life, and then switching to oil for this portfolio, I can tell you that, you know, if you have the opportunity to kind of explore oil paints, I would highly recommend that, because it was just, I felt like the colors and the texture of the paint was just a lot more rich, and it really helped in creating a sort of dreamy, surreal landscape throughout my entire portfolio. It was a lot nicer to work with as well. And it actually didn't take too long to dry, but all of my paintings I did with oil paint, and I highly recommend it. At least one thing I did notice with mine was, and you'll hear this a lot, but oil paints they're a little bit more dull, or the pigment, or like how it shows up is a little more dulled out than acrylic, and acrylic is a lot more bright. So that kind of worked in my favor because I wanted everything very dreamy and surreal. At this point in my portfolio, I started realizing that these were taking a really, really long time. So I think this piece I started doing when I started school. So the first two pieces in my portfolio, I had already done them over the summer. And this one was during school. And I think at this point, I was already kind of falling behind. I started realizing it was taking a lot of time. My art teacher was graceful enough to not take any points off for things that were late, but my paintings, as I got through the year, began to take longer and longer, like 25, 30, 45 to 50 hours even. So one thing I would say is, again, try to get a head start. I was quite slow in painting. So if you know that you're going to be slow, I guess like try to plan ahead and try to plan with your teacher as well. Because time constraint was really an issue for me the entire year. I never really prioritized the deadline over how I wanted the pieces to turn out. If you put a lot of effort into your AP portfolio, these are pieces that are going to stay with you forever. I had classmates who were just doing random little things in sketchbooks, and the pieces were, even to them, they were quite insignificant, and they didn't create them with the idea of having them last forever, or like, you know, continuing to see them years later down the road, or keeping them and cherishing them. That's not how I approach my AP art portfolio. I saw it as an opportunity to really force myself to create something that really had a lot of myself in it, a lot of my passion, a lot of my effort in it. And the end result was a lot of different pieces that I'm so grateful I created, because, you know, art holds a lot of memory. So all of them are so important to me. And these are paintings that I think are going to follow me for the rest of my life. I'm going to look back at them and be extremely, extremely proud of them. They weren't just like, you know, little assignments here and there that I did just to do. So I highly recommend, you know, don't be super, super late that every single thing you're turning in is like 2-3 months late, because that's what I was doing. But also, don't rush it. Unless you're taking the class just to take the class and get some AP credits, and okay. But, you know, if you're really, really passionate about art, you really want to improve, take the time to learn, get critiques, and really develop your skill, and put a lot of time and effort into your pieces, and the end result is going to be something completely amazing. Just adding on to my previous point, if you have some other goals in mind with your APR portfolio, really putting the time and effort into that is going to help. For example, when I was doing my APR portfolio, I also knew I was going to submit them to the Scholastic Art and Writing Awards in December. So I didn't BS my pieces at all, because I wanted to win awards. So this is actually a piece that won a Scholastic Art and Writing Gold Key. It also won, I think, like a collaboration contest that Scholastic did called the Don't Hide It, Flaunt It Award, I believe. But basically, at this point in the year, I was still going pretty strong, and this was the next oil painting I did. It was extremely ambitious. This is a piece I named Chronic Illness, and the inspiration came from chronic illnesses that I've had my entire life, and that I've kind of struggled with since a really young age. So I kind of pulled from my own personal experience to kind of make this piece. And that's something that I kind of did throughout the year, even in real time. So like I would be going through APR, and then I would kind of encounter something my junior year, and I'll get further into that. But that encounter would become a source of inspiration for the piece that I was doing. So this piece called Chronic Illness, it basically has me in the middle. This was my own reference photo. Everything else was from the internet, but like remixed to like the moon. But basically it's a doctor standing over a young me, and it was sort of to symbolize how, and obviously you see the environment. The environment is very murky and sickly. I wanted to give this like a very sick feeling. But basically this piece was to convey kind of like how sickness and disease kind of corrupted the innocence of childhood at a very young age. And I think I kind of conveyed that pretty well. And yeah, that was pretty much the premise for this piece. I had a lot of fun creating the composition for this. You know, the architecture was from two different images. And I got all these really nice references down here. This is an oil painting, and this is on a wood panel as well. All my paintings were on wood panels because it was just a lot easier to do than canvas. And this was, I believe it's 36 by 48 inches. So it was super large. You know, I kind of went into this piece like very hyped up because I had drawn up such a good composition for myself. But then as I kind of started doing it, it was very difficult, and by the end of it, I was kind of burnt out. At this point, I was already turning things in very late to my art teacher, and she still accepted them with full credit, so that was good. But yeah, this is a piece I was really proud of. It took a lot of time. It, you know, is very symbolic to me, and it won some other awards as well. One thing I do remember really trying to achieve with this painting, other than conveying the message, was I wanted to contrast all these organic forms down here with how angular the architecture was. And I also focused a lot on, you know, this very nice negative space at the top, and you can see what's in front, what's in the middle, and what's in the back. So these were things I really focused on when I was creating this piece. And of course, everything was altered to how I wanted it to be, such as the color in the background, the mood of the piece, and everything as such. So after that last painting, I did another oil painting. I don't know why. I think I was kind of just burning myself out with oil paintings. But I basically did this one, and I believe I named it The Unknown. And basically, my reference was my foot stepping through the doorway, and then the main figure here is actually a picture I got of my friend in art class. So this is an example of things happening in real time that can affect or influence what you want to create in your art. And it was pretty much to symbolize kind of, friends guiding you through the uncharted wilderness or uncharted territory in life. Um, this is one of the compositions I was most proud of, to be honest. It also won a Scholastic Gold Key. Something interesting with this piece, in context of when I was doing it, was actually, while doing it, it took so long that I actually stopped doing it for a while and began my next piece, and then I came back to finish it like months later. I think there was a period of time, maybe like 2.5 months that I actually, or almost 3 months that I actually didn't touch this piece after starting it and getting halfway through, just because it was really, really challenging. Um, it was just really, really challenging. I think I spent around 35 hours on it. Um, but yeah, in the end, it really paid off. This is one of my favorite paintings. The color scheme, um, the sort of mood, the environment that I place these characters in, and kind of what it symbolizes. Again, I didn't see anything like this at all. There was no really like inspiration or anything similar that I found on Pinterest. Um, but really, Pinterest and Photoshop were such a big factor in exercising my creativity and allowing me to kind of play around on Photoshop and kind of put these compositions together. So again, those are two really big tools that I would highly suggest using: Photoshop and Pinterest, to kind of clip things together. Throughout this period of time, I I was always very artistic, but I never took any sort of art class where I would learn any sort of principle. Taking APR and doing my pieces the way that I did really gave me the opportunity to kind of develop my skill when it came to having an eye for composition. I felt like the composition in all my pieces were extremely strong, like very, very strong. The only other people I saw that probably had better compositions for me were the other kids at that studio. Actually, the compositions didn't even take that much time. The compositions I was able to throw together very, very quickly, usually within 1 to 2 hours. Sometimes maybe 3 if I really had to work things out. But this one, the composition came very easy, but the process was a little bit difficult to carry out. In the end, it became one of my favorite pieces. And yeah, I really like this one. I honestly can't decide which piece was my favorite, but this one was definitely very, very huge. And, I was really, really proud of the fact that I was able to because obviously my art teacher noticed, like, it's my classmate, and, like, just a random Thursday or whatever, she was there making that position, and, like, I was taking photos of her, and I got that image, and then I used it as a reference photo. So that's another thing I recommend. If you don't have that many reference photos, just take pictures. Like, take pictures of people, take pictures of your friends, who are comfortable with it. And they can and you could, land on a really good photo, and that thing could lead to another, and you could end up with a really, really nice piece, and your friend is featured in it, so that's pretty cool. But it really shows, especially to your teacher as well, and to yourself, how adaptable you are, how innovative you are, and just how creative you are in making use of your environment, and your current situation to just turn into a whole entire painting. Like, I'm sure my friend didn't think that photo would come of anything, but it did, and that was the outcome, and I'm really happy with what I did with that photo. Now we're at the very end of 2022, and the next piece I did was actually graphite. I have a light on, so the glare could maybe impede with the viewing. I might just put a photo up as well. But the piece I began to do while doing my last oil painting was this one, and I did it in entirely pencil. My art teacher, because at this point I was so sick of oil paint, I was so sick of oil paint. I was really burned out with it. So I decided to go with graphite. And honestly, I haven't worked with graphite that much. I did a lot of charcoal. And my art teacher at school was actually telling me like, you're taking so long on this one. I think you should use charcoal because it will make it like things will go a lot faster because charcoal covers more area or whatever. But I held firm and said no. The art teacher at my studio was also like, I think it's better if you stick with graphite. Um, and I'm happy I did because with charcoal, I feel like I would have skimmed over a lot of detail. Using graphite this heavily for the first time in my life was really a learning experience. I went through a lot of pencils. um, yeah, but basically, this piece I named Airborne. And it was basically I'm getting tired of holding it. Basically, a sort of piece to symbolize what I wanted to pursue career-wise at the time, which was aviation. I wanted to become a pilot. So this is a piece I created where I just used 2 images of me. One of them was an old image. The other one I actually took in the bathroom of the art studio. So again, like just taking random images here and there could become a really good reference photo for yourself. I basically made really good use of perspective in this piece. Again, it was sort of like at a worm's eye, maybe like a squirrel's eye view. I kind of led the viewer's eye with the different planes. Honestly, this piece was just a lot of time, to be honest. The composition again was pretty quick. I think I have a video of how I created the composition for this. It's a YouTube short. I think you can probably find it on this channel. But again, used a lot of Photoshop and a lot of Pinterest and kind of altered everything and put it together to create this. This piece actually won a Scholastic Gold Key as well. And yeah, I'm very, very proud of this. This is, again, one of my favorites that I created. It's the only graphite piece that I have in my entire portfolio. I haven't done another piece this big ever since. But yeah, one thing this piece really taught me was the use of value. Because with pencil, I couldn't actually go that dark into like charcoal and everything. And my art teacher at the studio she was telling me like, you don't need like a 6B, you don't need like a whatever, you just need like 3B and like 2B. And then with those two, I was able to create that. But one thing I really learned was to make use of value in order to make things a little bit more detached, so you could tell that there was space in the piece, and then just learning where to apply different lights and darks to your piece to make it look very just to kind of tie it together. When you do create a composition reference from Photoshop, the lighting isn't always going to be correct, so you kind of have to envision it in your head to make the lighting more cohesive throughout the entire piece. But yeah, that's one thing graphite will really teach you to do, is how to work well with value, how to make certain things stand out, and you really have to make use of contrast. And again, this is black and white. Another tip my art teacher told me at the studio was, when you're working with black and white, you have to be very accurate. You have to make things look good. When you're working with color, you don't have to be as accurate because the color is very distracting, and it will distract from the lack of certain things like accuracy. So again, working with black and white, it really brings out a different skill set. And again, this is a different medium as well. I had a lot of fun. This piece actually took me almost 50 hours, but I didn't really burn out too much. It was just kind of slow and steady, So now we're in January of 2023. Scholastic submissions were December of 2022. So everything I just showed you, I submitted to Scholastic, and then of those, I won 3 gold keys. But basically, after winter break, I got back into oil painting, and then I created another one of my favorites, which was, I used another old portrait of mine, and I created this piece right here. So this piece, you can tell, is definitely a lot more simple, but my art teacher told me it was one of the best I'd ever done. So if you put this one and compare it to the others, I don't think the composition was too advanced at all. But this is when my painting skills kind of shone. At this point, I had a few pieces of, a few oil paintings under my belt, and was getting a lot of experience with that. So I think after winter break, I kind of, had a rest and took a breath of air and really honed in on my skills. And I put a lot of passion into this one. Basically 2 hands around my face, and this was just a random photo I took like many years ago, and it came back and created such a good subject. I really wanted this piece to convey a sense of like serenity, and I guess it is like a dream, like surrealism still. You can definitely tell it is still surrealistic. And one thing that really does pop out at you is the color choice I decided to use in this photo. So there wasn't too much alteration. The main subject was my face. I had a background, pretty plain sky, 2 mushrooms that I got, and then did I say the hands already? I don't know. So what I really decided to focus on and alter with this one was the color choice. Obviously my face wasn't like that before, so I played around with the contrast, played around with different filters and colors, and it kind of created this scene right here. My friend said the color scheme was really nasty. I don't think it's nasty. In my opinion, I feel like it's it plays into the mood that I'm trying to convey. Just very serene and surreal. So this piece I actually named, I just checked, I named it Insomnia. I'm not sure why, but yeah, it was one of my favorite pieces. I really went in on the face with this one. What I, created like a base layer that I was happy with, but then I just kept working at it. Mixed in some cooler tones in the face and everything like that. And yeah, I had a lot of fun with this one. The composition was quite simple, but the technique in this one was quite powerful in my opinion. And then also the color choices as well, like this purple magenta against the green, and like the blue against the yellow. So at this point in the video, you're probably wondering how I created such intricate pieces that look very, very time consuming, and still was able to turn everything in. So the reality was I actually wasn't. I wasn't able to create, it was 15. I wasn't able to create 15 during the school year and the summer included. What I did at the end was I actually threw in a lot of random pieces, a lot of quick pieces that I had done, and they didn't really fit my theme. They didn't really fit the art style of the rest of my portfolio. And obviously, I think that was really the only downside of it. However, I believe that someone who is really, really mentally strong could have created the pieces with the same amount of effort I did and still finish 15 within summer and the school year. Because during my pieces, I actually took long periods of time off where I wasn't working on anything. I could go weeks or months without working on a piece. There would be a lot of gaps. And I think that's just because I never had done such a large volume of art before. What AP art kind of demanded is not something most people have done in the past. This was really intense, and it's not something most people are prepared for. So really the only downside was, at least for my year, was that I wasn't able to create everything that I wanted. And I kind of had to throw in random pieces at the end just to have 15 pieces to submit to College Board. So this is a piece I did after that last piece. I don't remember what I named this piece, but I was really trying to convey a feeling of like numbness. After last piece, so we're in like February now. I had a bit of a mental snap in February. I was just going through a lot of different stuff at school and at home. Basically, I stopped going to the art studio, and I was missing a lot of class. So at this point, basically, I was pretty much on my own when I was creating my pieces. And this was sort of a reflection of my mind in those moments. So that's kind of what I mean when I say, you know, certain events that are happening while you literally go through your portfolio and creating that throughout the year. There are certain things that can influence your pieces at the time, and that's what I did, and I believe those are very, very powerful because number one, they give you really great ideas, and you're very in tune with those emotions and what you want to see visually because you're experiencing that in the moment. And there's also the aspect of this really does capture a lot of memory of that period of time. Granted, it wasn't a very positive period of time, but it's very interesting to look back on and see the visual and sort of emotional representation that I created with it. So this piece, I kind of wanted to convey a feeling of numbness and just sort of uncomfortable existence, or I'm not really sure, because honestly at that period of time I wasn't too sure what I was feeling as well. So if you look at the expression, you can I didn't really put too much effort into the face, but like the expression is supposed to be quite unreadable. So, you know, I did a little photo shoot of myself. This one was an intentional photo shoot. Did a self photo shoot of myself, like just like on a bed. Intentionally made myself look like that. Just look very uncomfortable in my body. And then I kind of accentuated that with the environment. I kind of made myself look uncomfortable in the environment. Almost like I didn't fit very well in frame. My body is sort of in an uncomfortable position, and I'm around some objects, some eggs that are much smaller than me, and some of them are broken into eggshells. So I didn't use too many different reference photos for this piece, and the main thing was myself. I think this still, you know, it takes on a continues the tune of surrealism. And I took a lot of inspiration from my last piece when it came to number one, playing around with color, and number two, the actual painting technique and texture. So if you look closely, like obviously my skin isn't red. I played around with the color scheme, you know, have like inverted colors and everything, green and red complementary, and then the fabric, like the yellow and the orangish red, and just the skin too was really painted with the inspiration of what I did with my last piece. So, you know, it's one piece influencing the other, and it's not my most favorite piece. At this point, I wasn't getting any feedback from my teacher or anything like that, and you know, again, composition I created by myself. But yeah, honestly, at this point, I was on my own. I never went back to the studio again. I just stopped going, and then I created this, and this was the first piece on my own. So I think it was sort of a testament that, you know, it may not be as amazing as having someone or having other people around me who are similar skill level like critique me and give certain pointers that I could improve on, but it was definitely passable. And at this point, there was a lot of emotion going into my pieces. That's one thing that really stood out to me and does stand out to me when I look at this piece, and it kind of takes me back to that period of time in my life. So I've been filming for quite a while now. I'm not sure how long the video is going to be, but I decided I'm not going to show you my entire 15 pieces because number one, the video is already super long, and number two, I think the rest of my pieces were the ones that I kind of just threw together into my portfolio, and they didn't really follow the rest of the other pieces. And it's not work that I'm particularly proud of. So I'm gonna show you like two more pieces, and then I'm going to wrap up the video. But so this is a piece that this is a piece that I did after the last painting. I don't remember what I named it as well. And this was on actual wood, by the way. I just had a piece of Home Depot wood laying around, so it is really heavy. So basically, in this period, I stumbled across a Discord server, and there are a lot of interesting images in the Discord server. So what I ended up doing was I filtered out and just searched for files in the server, and I got certain images that I found very interesting. And I sampled a couple images from different people, and I kind of stitched them together like I usually do in Photoshop, and then I created this sort of composition. So this is kind of a little bit, not exactly the same, but I kind of used the technique I did in my first ever piece, which was I combined like a 3D aspect with a 2D sort of abstract background, and then this is what I ended up with. I wanted to make it very surrealistic, and then yeah, it's definitely something very interesting to look at. I had a lot of fun painting it. So near the end of the year, I kind of had to crank out some pieces. So came up with a little more simple composition. I'm very happy with the composition. I think the technique could have been a little bit better, but it was definitely passable, and I was happy with it. So this last piece I'm gonna have on screen because I don't have it with me right now. Basically, I wanted to explore sort of fear for antipsychotic medication. I kind of got this environment where it's almost like an observation room looking into a scene. And in that scene, I kind of wanted to convey this like adult preschool creepy type of uncomfortable, like uncomfortably cheerful type of vibe. That was a little bit childish, and then I have like a bloody hand against the window to sort of convey like a get me out of here kind of thing. And nothing in this piece was my own reference. I got them off Pinterest. But yeah, this one was fairly quick. I did it with colored pencils, and I think it still yielded a pretty powerful result. It was just a piece that this was a composition I did a very long time ago, but I didn't do it because it didn't feel good enough. So I had a lot of compositions that I just had sitting in Photoshop that I wasn't using. So near the end of the school year, when we had to get ready to submit to College Board, I kind of went through those in Photoshop, and then picked one that I always wanted to do but never thought would be good enough. I actually wanted to paint it, but so basically I took this one, used colored pencils. I scaled the framing down a lot. It was only a few inches by a few inches. I think it may have been just like 9 by 12, I think. And then I managed to create this piece fairly quickly, and then add that to my APR portfolio. Anyway, that was most of my portfolio for APR my junior year of high school. I will say that if you want to take it your junior year, you can go ahead. Just be in a headspace to be able to handle it. So if you think that you can keep it up for the entirety of your junior year, then go ahead. I didn't do it my senior year, but honestly, I think both years are awful, so just pick one you want. Because junior year, you're going to be doing a lot of academics. Senior year, you're going to be doing a lot of college apps. So I would just kind of recommend whenever you feel is like best for you to do so, go ahead and take it. and you know, just prepare during the summer, and then kind of talk to your teachers if you're not going to finish on time. At least in my school, or I feel like in most schools, our teachers are a lot more lenient and understanding, partly because they're art teachers and partly because the subject they teach is art, compared to other teachers and other types of classes where the curriculum and everything is a lot more rigid, the assignments and everything. Second semester, my teacher began to dock off 5%. Every single day we were late, and I was still taking like extra months and weeks to finish my pieces. So sometimes I would turn a piece and I would get an F on it, even though it was probably one of the most beautiful pieces I did. But just talk to your teacher, and sometimes they can be lenient. I did get an A both semesters pretty easily, and then I did get a 5 on the AP exam. AP art was quite a whirlwind for me, and I think it just, you know, the art pieces that you create during that time, if you put a lot of effort into them, they're going to mean a lot. So when I stare at this, I'm kind of transported back to that year. And I would say it was definitely a very rough experience. I would never take it again. And if I took it, I wouldn't submit to College Board. But having gone through it, I'm happy that I did. It really forced me to create these pieces that I otherwise wouldn't have. And yeah, it was definitely a very interesting experience. Going through it with your friends is also very fun. So anyway, that was the video. If you, you know, found it interesting, you have any questions, let me know in the comments. But yeah, that was my APR experience. If you're going to take it or you're currently taking it, I wish you the best of luck. But anyway, thank you for watching.